Hey everybody, back with another response video. Doing this one for Waxpack Poetic. And even though this is a topic that I've covered before in some past responses over the years or something similar to it, but I just wanted to do this one for him because I just really like his channel and he's the type of guy I know I can really get along with. And those of you that watch me and interact with me, I think you're all gonna really like him too. So hopefully after this, some of you go check him out. But I'm gonna leave a clip here of what he wants for this response and we'll continue.
And I want to know your most valuable card, any sport. But here's the catch. It's not monetary value. Your most valuable card to you for a reason that has nothing to do with the amount the card is worth or what you paid for it or anything like that. Okay, so it's personal value.
Alright, so like I said, this response topic has popped up a few times in the past and I've done it a few times. So I'm just going to bring back two of the cards I've used before and tell the same stories. Some of you who have heard these stories before might not want to hear them again, but just wait for the next video. I guess I don't know what else to tell you. But going to start real quick with this Michael Jordan card, which, as I've mentioned before, this was the first ever Jordan card that I ever pulled, and it was out of the first ever sports card pack that I ever bought. Up to then I only collected Marvel cards and was starting to get into watching the NBA and was becoming a big Michael Jordan fan. Ironically enough, this was around the time where he retired the first time to go play baseball. But out of that pack, all I wanted was a Jordan card and ended up pulling that. And even back then, it was just like $1 card, but I was thrilled to pull it. And I always say, like, if that pack had just been full of commons or just a bunch of players that I didn't care about, like, that might have been it for me. I might have never bought another sports card pack again. So I always say this was kind of the card that got my sports card collecting started. So again, now you can probably find it in a dollar bin or maybe even for less on ComC, but to me that card is priceless. So that was the first card I chose. This next card is another one that I've used for previous responses, but decided to go to it again. It's my 1985 Topps Mark McGwire rookie. And this story is a little bit longer, that's why I'm shooting it this way, but I'll try to keep it somewhat brief. So like I was saying, I was buying those basketball packs and did that for a few years. Then towards the mid-90s, started to get more into baseball. Started to become a big fan of that guy. Had put together a little PC back before we even called it a PC. Had a lot of nice inserts and stuff like that. But did not have that card and had no way of getting that card. It wasn't like now, like you couldn't just go online and get whatever card you want. Like all I had to depend on was card shows and card shops, and they never had it. But this is where my uncle comes into this story because he had gotten out of the hobby a few years previous and was starting to kind of get a little bit back interested around this time. Mainly because of me, because he was seeing the type of cards I was pulling and the type of collection that I was putting together. So it kind of relit a fire under him. And one time when I was over at his house, we went to his, I guess you would call it like a man cave, but back then we didn't call it that. It was just where he had all his cards, and we just started rummaging through all his cards, and I saw that he had this card, and it wasn't graded back then. I graded it years later as part of my first ever BGS order, but that's another story for another day. But yeah, I saw he had this card, and thankfully he wasn't a big McGwire fan, so he was willing to trade it to me. And being the kind of guy he was, like, he probably would have just given this to me. Like, he had already given me a bunch of really good cards, but thankfully he didn't give me this one. He wanted to negotiate a trade, and it kind of taught me how to work a good trade when you really want a good card. Because I guess an important part of this story is this was early in 98 where this card was really starting to heat up, so it was definitely a hot card at the time and was not easy to get. So he kind of made me put together a trade. Like, he didn't even tell me what cards he wanted from my collection. He just made me really think it out, and again, that really taught me a lot. And one of the cards I offered first was a Mickey Mantle reprint refractor, which I had pulled from Topps. I think it was 96, back when they were doing the Mantle reprints. Back before they started like making all the Mantle reprints that they do now. Like, they've kind of watered that down, but back then those cards were pretty hot, and refractors were pretty hot back then because you couldn't pull them at every other pack like you can now. So that card had some weight to it. That was the first card I offered. And that was a tough card for me to offer because as a Yankee fan, and I was kind of starting to learn about Mantle a bit. But again, I kind of learned that night that you got to give something to get something. You want a good card, you got to give some good cards in return. And so I started with that one because I also knew he wanted that because when he saw that I had pulled it, he had mentioned that he wanted to get one like that to send to his dad, who was a big Mantle fan. So again, me kind of remembering that, I was like, all right, here, this is the first card I'm offering. And the Mantle alone wasn't going to be enough to get the Maguire, but that was a good starting point. And then to kind of add to the deal, again, I had to really think. So thinking that he was a big NBA fan, I think he was more of a basketball fan than baseball fan. So again, he had been out of the hobby, so he didn't have a lot of the new cool stuff. So I decided to add a rookie of a good young player at the time named Kobe Bryant. And kind of ironic that this card was involved in that trade because that's kind of how this response started, where Lou from Waxpack Poetic was showing his Kobe cards that mean a lot to him, and this card was in there, and again, that's kind of what started this whole thing, and just so happens to be part of my story. And y'all know how much I love this Flair Showcase set and my 90s NBA in general, so even back then it was tough for me to give one of these up. I had two of them, but even having two of them, it was tough to add one to the trade. This was around the time where Kobe's hobby popularity was really kicking up, so this was also a really hot card at the time. So this and the Mantle, I felt like that was a pretty good deal, but again, I kind of learned, like, don't be stingy when you're trying to make a trade for a card you really want. So to sweeten the deal, again, I just kept thinking, and knowing he was a big John Stockton and Karl Malone fan at the time, this was when the Utah Jazz were getting like really popular because they were like a legit title contender. So I had my binder with me. I had a bunch of Stockton and Malone inserts and just really cool cards from the 90s that, again, I knew he didn't have because he hadn't been buying packs all these years. So I said, just to sweeten the deal, I'll add every Stockton and Malone card that I have in my binder. And it was like 50 cards or so, and that was enough to get me my Maguire. So, and then as it turns out, this card caught fire that season because, again, it was the 98 season where he ended up hitting 70 home runs. So this became like a few $100 card that summer, and couldn't sell it. Like, my friends were always telling me, like, you should sell it. Why aren't you selling it? And just couldn't bring myself to sell it. Even back then, it just meant too much to me. And as it turns out, like, now we know, like, Maguire with all the PD stuff, this kind of dipped in value. Even before then, like, towards the end of his career when he was injured a lot, the value on this was already starting to drop. And then with the PED admission, like, I don't know, I haven't even checked, but I'm pretty sure you could get this card in this grade for like under $20. But again, to me, it's priceless. It's kind of funny because as the monetary value on it continues to drop over the years, it seems like the personal value on it continues to go up. So I think that's kind of what Waxpack Poetic is looking for in this contest. And it's funny because last time I did a video about this card, like, some random dude left a comment saying something like, that card is worthless now because of the PEDs. And I'm like, this guy clearly didn't listen to my video because that was kind of the point I was trying to make. Like, I don't want to sell it. Like, I didn't even sell it when it was worth hundreds of dollars where I could have cashed in, and that would have been a lot of money to a kid, but just meant too much to me back then, means a lot to me now. And not to get too personal, but my uncle years ago, he moved to California, and I don't see or talk to him much anymore. So every time I see this card, it's kind of like, takes me back to that night where we made that trade, and takes me back to a simpler time in the hobby and simpler time in life, really. So again, this is a card that, both these cards, this and the Jordan, like, even if I had to get rid of most of the stuff in my collection, these are two cards that will never leave my collection. So thanks to Waxpack Poetic for running this, and again, hope you guys check out his channel, and hope some more guys do this response because I haven't really seen a lot of responses for it yet, but it's definitely a good topic. Enjoy it every time somebody brings it up here in the community. So hope you guys put out a response. I'll talk to you guys next time.